We had to jump on a podcast. One of my favorite people, Brittany Bobbs. Come on, girl. 22 loans this month for over $7 million. We get the privilege of being together. You're in the Alliance Bootcamp, which is pretty cool. And I'm really excited about our time together today because I thought, you know what? You've got something to say. You're closing a lot of volume. You've been a great producer. We talked a few weeks ago, probably, I don't know, maybe even a couple of months ago about your target of chasing down $100 million in a year. And I'm like, yes, you can. And you're crushing it. So what's up, girl? Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's crazy being
Yeah.
here.
Are you kidding? Hey, well, how did our story begin? How did you get active or associated or connected with us at the Marketing Animals or through the podcast? What was like, how did you get connected to us?
You.
Well,
So,
okay, well, talk to me. I know. So I want you to tell our listeners, like, how'd you get connected?
so I honestly, when I started originating, which was in the end of 19 was my first full year.
Okay,
I somehow stumbled upon, I was obsessed with podcasts
got it.
and trying to figure out my business. And I found your podcast and I started listening to you all the time. So this was,
I love it.
you are literally how I found the mortgage marketing animals. And I listened to you weekly since probably the mid to end of 2019.
That's crazy. Well, and there's now 100. I was just looking at, there's like, we're almost at 400 episodes. It's a lot. We've been on a
Yes.
journey together for a while.
Yes.
So,
It's been a while. Yes.
hey, so tell us because I know our listeners are going to just love this interview because you're doing something really special. You know what I hear really we get the privilege, Carl, myself and our team, we see hundreds and thousands of loan officers every week and every month. And Brittany, it's really two camps, people that are thriving and people that are
Mhm.
struggling. And what I love is when somebody would say the market's tough, there's no business out there, it's a hard environment. I'm like, yeah, but Brittany's closing 22 units for over $7 million. If she can do it, you can do it. And so I want you to tell us your story. First off, how did you get started? Because you're not a 30-year veteran in the mortgage business. You've been in for a handful of years, but how did you get started? What drew you into the business? And let's start there.
Okay. So actually, I started in the business forever ago. So I am kind of old, but so I started in '03, excuse me, '05. Geez. And but when I did in the business was really everything. So I got hired in, I kind of fell into it, and I was doing paperwork. So I essentially was like copying loan packages and FedExing it. I mean, it was '05, it was like the Wild West. So
Oh yeah, man. We were sending real deal pack like full packages that you had to put in a stacking order.
yes, oh, it was so bad. That was my job. It was so, I was like, what am
Yeah.
I doing? So that lasted for not very long. And then I went into post closing.
Yeah.
And then I went into funding. So really like over the span of most of my career, it was about, I don't know, maybe 13 years, something like that. I was in operations in
Yes.
mortgages. And
Yeah.
so I did, funding, post closing, closing, processing, I did underwriting, and then I managed processing. That was like kind of the end of my operations career.
Right.
And so I got into originating at the end of 18. So I am
So you've
relatively
been in the
newer to
mortgage
that.
space, but you actually just started originating in 18
Yes.
as a
Yes.
licensed loan officer. You said, I'm done with operations. I'm done with all that. I'm going to go do this myself.
Yes. And really what it was is
Yeah.
because I was managing processing and I had just gotten to the point where I was always cleaning up other loan officers' messes. And I was
Mm,
finally like, you know what? I got in the business, this is funny, in '05 to originate. That was really like the goal was I'm
yeah.
going to originate. And I just kind of like got in salaried positions. And every time I felt like I was going to move into originating, I swear I would get a raise and a promotion every single time. And so like I just like was so stuck in my head and so scared of the risk of it all that I just kind of stayed through it.
Mm.
Um, but then finally at the end of 18, I was like, you know what? I'm just ready. Like, I'm either going to do it or I'm not. Let's go. So I walked away from my salary career. I was managing like 20, I think 20 plus people at the time. and I started all commission. And I remember what's really funny to me, back to kind of what you were saying about loan officers, there's such a shift in mindset between the really successful loan officers I was working with, and I knew they were because I was working with them and doing their loans.
Right.
Their attitude when I moved was so awesome that people were calling me saying like, "Go girl, like I'll help you with anything you need, like you're going to kill it."
Yeah.
But then there was the other side of loan officers that were not super productive, that, you know, had a deal here and there. And they were so, it was like Eeyore. They would be like, "Oh, wow, you really got in at the right time, huh? Ha, ha. Like this is going to be bad." Like, you know what I mean? And it was just
Yeah.
like so interesting seeing the two sides of it. Um, so anyway, yeah. So I started originating. Really, 2019 was like the very first full year that I originated,
Yeah.
um, and it was a little bit. It was really rough, you know. When you first start, it's just it's a lot of grit. It takes a lot of grit and resilience.
Mm.
Um, but I just pushed through it. I have, you know, the reason that I kind of started all this is my daughter was diagnosed with autism kind of around that time, and I was kind of like, you know, when you get you're like an animal that gets like backed into the corner, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that the desperation that I felt was so extreme that I was just clawing around, and I was like, "I'm going to survive. I'm going to do this. I know
Mm.
other loan officers that are doing it. They're not better than me. Like I know I can do this." And so
Mm.
I think the push that I had was really, really strong. And it was because of the, you know, kind of the hard times I was going through, but it helped me really
You had a
push.
huge why. Yeah, when you're backed into a corner, there's no it goes back to there's no way out, only a way
Hmm.
through. And that's a
Yeah.
different mindset. And so you start in 2019, right? It's a little bit of a challenge. You saw good growth. Like the next week,
Hmm.
the next year you grew, the next year you grew. So talk about that.
Hmm.
And then what is happening this year that's helping you? So what was your trajectory of growth looking like? And then talk about this year and what's helping you.
So my first full year in 2019, I ended up with 9 million at the end of the year.
Killer.
In
Yep.
2020, I did 42 million. So it was quite the jump. And then in 2021, I did 66 million.
Wow.
Um,
Great job.
thank you. I think the staying consistent is really what helped me.
Yep.
Um, just get the business. But when you get to like a certain point where you can be consistent, the business is coming in, but it becomes like a scaling issue. And this is kind of why I called you initially, was I was having some tough time in my business trying to scale.
Yeah.
So I had this huge explosion, you know, in the very beginning, just from really realtors that I had met.
Yeah.
That's the bulk of my business still to this day, is just realtors and getting leads from them. So I had a really good group of realtors that I started kind of going after, and they've really helped me sustain my business. And from there, it became, you know, scaling and creating a team. So
Mm.
where I am now is I'm still consistently doing the sales, obviously, but it's more of like scaling, and how do I continue to scale and stop, like you say, like all roads can't always lead to me. Like I need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
continue to like grow so that I can keep growing my business as far as like grow my team.
Hey, for somebody in remarkable from 9 million to 48 million to 60 million. And this year, weren't you telling me you're going to hit probably 68 million, somewhere in there? Where were
Hmm.
you last
Yeah.
year? 68. And then we're going to target 2025 to be the year over 100 million.
Yes.
And so let's talk about this. Going from 9 to over 40 million, what do you think? What helped you the most in that? In a 12-month timeline, that's fast growth. So
Hmm.
let's go back, and not what you're doing today, but for somebody who's saying, "Hey, I'm about $10 million a year. I'd love to take that in a 12-month time frame, get it up to about 40 plus million." Speak to
Hmm.
that. What would somebody do? What did you do?
Well, to be totally honest, to me, it's about time blocking and really having people like you really helped me figure this out. But it's about being consistent, time blocking, and making calls, basically. That's it. And so,
Okay, so
like,
hold
what,
on, hold on, hold on. Those are great keys.
yeah.
So consistent, time blocking, and making the calls. So let's talking about
hmm
this. What are we going to be
hmm
consistent in?
For me, being consistent with being on top of agents and being on top of leads, and always basically doing the same thing.
Okay, so what does that mean? Same thing. Same about like, talk to me about what that is.
So I know, like, when I go into, work every day,
Yeah.
I have a plan, and
Okay.
it's the same thing all the time. So, like, I come in, I do my emails, I plan for my day as far as like issues on files that I have. I have my pipeline call with my team, and we go over
Yeah.
that. But then the consistency part beyond that is that I make calls, and I set a time block where this is my sales activity and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it today. And I think um, the issue with a lot of loan officers, and even me, when I've noticed my production is not as good because it does ebb and flow sometimes, I have to catch myself, is when I'm letting my day dictate what is going to happen and
Mm,
not planning my day accordingly. It's when I come in and I have an issue with the file, and it's
yeah.
like nobody's going to die. It's
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not, no one's going to die. Like, I need to just put that in aside for the next 2 hours. I'm going to make my calls, and then later I will deal with that. So the consistency becomes planning my day. I'm a salesperson. I'm going to sell. The other things will get done. It will get done, but it's going to happen when I dictate that it happens.
I love it. Well, and we talk about it all the time. It's either the urgent or the important. The urgent rarely
Mm-hmm.
makes you a bunch of money. The important is what
Mm-hmm.
scales your business. And so I
Yeah.
love it. So the three keys, staying consistent in your daily activity. Hey, and you know what's interesting, Brittany? Um, the more successful you become, the more mundane life because, and I don't mean
Mm-hmm.
mundane like it's a like you hate it, but it's so predictable. It's like
Mm-hmm.
people think, success is every day we're chasing something new. It's actually further from the truth. Reality is when you've got just a rocking business, it's just it's so predictable because you're doing the same thing. You got a
Mm-hmm.
process, it's consistent, you same way every time, what you're doing in your phone calls and how you're doing your loan consultations. And really, the more successful
Mm-hmm.
you are, the less chaotic and unpredictable it is. So that's always something I thought was pretty
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Hey there, if you're loving the tips so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss out on more cool free tips coming your way. I'd also love to hear from you. Make sure to drop a comment below and let me know what you think, or what it is you want to see next. And we'll see you on the inside. See you. Hey, who are we calling? So again, going back from 10 million, I want to get to 40 million. Who are you calling? What are you saying? What helped you with the relationships kind of scale quickly?
So for me, it was realtors. I was calling so many realtors.
Hey, are
It was
these
like
realtors you
nauseating.
know or realtors you don't know?
No, these were realtors I did not know. I was cold calling. I did not know anybody. Even being in the business this long,
Yeah.
I did never had relationships with the realtors. The loan officers always did. So I didn't
Yeah.
know anybody. I
Wow.
literally went online, and in Baltimore, there's something called Live Baltimore, which is like, grants and all this kind of stuff. And it's basically like real estate in Baltimore City. And I
Right.
went on Live Baltimore, and I pulled up all the agents, and I literally called all of them.
Wow.
And I was really aggressive in the cold calls. Like, sometimes it was like 50 a day. And it was rough. Cold calling is not always great, but when I got my meetings, when I got like my yes from somebody, or even if it wasn't a yes, even if it was like a maybe, I was like, yeah. And the whole day, like the rest of
Yeah.
my calls, I was like
Yeah.
killing it. I'd be like, all right,
Yeah.
let's go. So it really just was, in the beginning for me, it was cold calling agents. I would call them. I had a couple of different tactics that I tried, which I think is the fun part about sales, is tweaking things, which is what I appreciate you with your script, because
Yeah.
you tweaked it that way. You know what works, and you don't know what works until you try it. So I tried a couple of different things. I think there were different times in my career that a different script would work for me. And I don't really know why, if it was maybe just the confidence that I felt behind it. But I would do it really like I had three different things that would work for me. One is I would call an agent and just flatter them because
Yeah.
like who's gonna get mad, you know? Like, oh my gosh, you're killing it. Like, I don't know how you're doing this. Like, it's crazy. I would love to just meet with you. I know you're so busy. I
I
know
love
you're
it.
so busy, but like, please just meet. Like, I would love it. And so I got a lot of meetings from that, just being flattering people.
Hey, and hold on and keep your other three. But you know what's great about that is you know, a word I would use too is honor. It's
Mhm.
rare in today's
Yeah.
environment that somebody honors you for what you do. Like Brittany, if somebody came up to you and say, Brittany, you're killing it, like $7 million in a month, I would love, like, I think about insurance agents or title agents that want to meet with great
Mhm.
loan officers. And it's like, what I really believe this generation has lost is the art of honor. And honor is
Mhm.
you've worked your butt off. You've been
Yes.
doing what you've been doing at a level very few ever reach. And it's okay if we say, hey, my hat's off to you. High five, you're killing it. And for me, I don't
Yes.
know about you, but it's like, yeah, well, thanks for noticing. And honor
Yes.
really works, man. And it's okay.
It
So
does.
it's a big deal. Like there's no time somebody's not honored me that I didn't say, I'll make 15 minutes. I'm like,
Of
yes,
course.
15
Yes.
minutes. So,
It makes you feel good. And the thing behind that is I actually meant it.
oh
You
yeah.
know, I would see agents that were truly killing it. And one guy that they called like the white whale, it was just funny in my office. They would say that
White.
about him, the
Yeah.
white whale. And
Yeah.
he just is a huge agent still
Yeah.
to this day. And I hunted him down because I was like, I want to work with you. And I was just in awe of like, really like how was he doing so much business? And then I met his business partner and she's the same way. And I'm like, how are you guys doing? So it was like this, I think it was a natural um thing, like a natural feeling that they felt when I would call people. And so it didn't seem corny and fake. You know,
Mhm.
it's very genuine and people I think appreciate that.
Hey, you know what it is? It's sincerity. You're
Yeah.
genuinely a student of success. Like, you know, we talk about that. One of the ways you can do it is I'm a student of success. I'd love to hear your story. But until you internalize it, and it's like I'm not saying
Mhm.
just words, like I genuinely want to hear what you're doing to crush it.
Yes.
And that sincerity creates the authentic conversation. And man, the right people it's going to resonate with. And so, all right,
Hmm.
so one of the scripts that worked for you was honor. What was, do you remember the other two?
Yeah. So the other two, so you know, sales is kind of like what sets you apart, right? And
Yeah.
so for me, my what sets me apart is that I used to underwrite, I used to manage processing. So I
Mm,
had like something that I could give to them that was of value.
yeah.
And my value to them was, and it still is with agents, and that's the reputation I've kind of created is like, if you give me a loan, if you give me an application and I tell you they're good, they're good. They're
Yeah.
closing. They will close. I will figure it out. If anyone can figure it out, I can figure it out. And then that was kind of like, again, this genuine, like, I just feel so confidently about it that
Mm,
people could just feel it. They would just be
mm,
like, oh, okay. You know, and then
yeah.
people would call me later and I would tell listing agents too, like, I wrote an offer for this person, you know, or we have a pre-approval letter for this person. This is my background. I am telling you, this person is getting to closing. Like, there is no way. I am so thorough up front. It's they like literally they will have to like, you know, go to jail for them not to get this house. And so, you know, and then people are like, oh, okay. And then they call me later and be, oh, you know what, I'm having an issue. And they would be people like 2 months later. I'm
Mm,
having an issue with a loan. I remember you telling me so strongly about how you can get things done. Can you try to work this out? So it was just like this confidence in like what I was selling to them to provide value to them that kind of like had people coming back.
I love it. Yeah. Well, and it's who you are. It's what you stand for. It's like if it can be done, I'm the one that's going to get it done.
Yes.
I
Yes.
love it. Okay, what was your third one? Do you remember that?
Yes. Oh, yes, I do. So the third one is a little bit brave. I don't know if I would recommend it. I think you can tweak it. I've heard you talk about this before, but um, So what I used to do is I would go to agents and tell them like, "Hey, do you have a list of some leads from maybe like a year ago from Zillow or something like that that didn't
Yeah.
work out at the time?" And I will call them for you you have if you have a little list. Just send it over, I'll call them for you. And I think it impressed a lot of agents because they were like, "Wow, no one's doing that." And there were times where I would get somebody that was like interested, um, and I would just hand them back to the agent, and they were just like, it was more of the fact that I was trying so hard that made them want to work with me because
I
they were
love it.
like, "This girl is
Yeah.
like a pit bull." But
She's the hustler. Yeah, she's going to get the work done.
yeah,
And she's really trying to help me grow my business.
yes, that's what it is. So it was like my way of being like, "This is not a one-way street.
Right.
I'm going to grow this business for you or with you. We're going to
Yeah.
do it together." And that helps to get some attention as well.
I love it. Hey, and when you couple it with something like the loan officer CRM, you can really nurture
Hmm.
these older leads. And, one of the things we do too, knowing what we know now, it's, hey, over the last 12 months, here's a great question to ask. Over the last 12 months, who are the clients you worked with that you felt like should have moved forward, but
Hmm.
we could call and let's see if we could wake them up. And so here's what you did was you honored them, you instilled confidence because of your experience and expertise. And then the third part is when it was appropriate, you're sitting here saying, let's go get business together. What
Hmm.
a great way to do it. So, okay. Hey, so let's talk about this. So agents have been a big part of your business. And talk to me about today, knowing what you know now, what would you have done
Hmm.
different?
I think what I really neglected to do, and this now that I'm doing call stars and things like that, I think the thing that I really neglected to do, I tried so hard with agents, which actually is very helpful. It's a huge leg of business, but I neglected my own past clients.
Mm,
Um, and I didn't take appropriate records. I've always been really good with my CRM, but when I've moved my CRMs, it's kind of gotten sloppier over time. So I've definitely lost past clients. I did not ever work them. I don't want to say work them, but you know what I mean. I don't think I ever tried to get leads from them in a way that was super impactful. And I think that if I had, I would definitely have more growth at this point.
yeah. Hey, isn't that interesting with the amount of business, what we see on average for the low side for working your database consistently, which is calling them quarterly, mailing them monthly. Some people send out weekly emails, random text. I mean, we have a whole process. But isn't it interesting that if you hit the average of what we see is about one loan per 100, that adds up real quick
Mhm.
per month.
Mhm.
That's a
Mhm.
lot. So somebody who has 500 past clients, on average, if you're activating your database, would be closing 5+ additional loans a month. And you know what's really good is it's not all or nothing. It's wow, we recognize there's a gap, and now we're going to go back
Mhm.
in and let's just systematically over the next 30, 60, 90 days, a database can be fully woke up in about 60 to 90 days. So now we just focus on it. And that's
Mhm.
such a powerful thing. So, and I know that's something we're working on. We're going to get that nailed down.
Yes, because I know just even with the past, I've been doing this for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Gosh, 3 weeks maybe,
Yeah.
and it's kind of embarrassing, honestly, calling these past clients that don't remember me. And I'm like, I even remember you. Like, how do you
Yeah.
not remember me? Like, that's crazy. I helped you buy your house. What? But then I'm like, that's my fault. Like, that is 100% my fault. And so,
Hey,
yeah, I know now that if I continue down this path, they're going to remember me and they're
yeah.
going to refer me business. And it's just, I just need to be consistent in that piece of it.
Yeah, I saw a National Association of Realtors study, and it talked about you'd worked with your agent, your loan officer. How many would recommend or refer? And I think it was over like 75, 80%. But then it asked how many you remember who your previous realtor or loan officer was. And it was like very, very few. Like it was
Mhm.
shocking. Like they,
Mhm.
yes,
Mhm.
I'll recommend. It was a great experience, do you remember who it was? And they were like, no, I have no idea. And so half of it's like, okay, all right, it's on me. It's nobody's
Yes,
mine. And so I'm going to own it,
yes,
but it stops today. So, and the
yes.
markets are so easy. You know, it's like, I'll never forget, Brittany. I had a guy who sold us a couple of really high-end foreign cars. And his name was Steven. I liked him so much. I remember I actually offered him a job in the mortgage space. And it had been like 5 years. And we had bought, I think, 3 cars from him in a short period of time. And all of a sudden I look and I'm like, Steven, who is this guy? Oh my gosh, that's that used car guy. And it wasn't used, but and I answer it, and it wasn't weird. It wasn't like, and this is as we realized like we had been building the database and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool, he called, but I wasn't mad. Like I hadn't talked to you in five
Hmm.
years. I was like, dude, he called. That is a
Hmm.
class act. And I answered,
Hmm.
and it was, I mean, it was a great call, but it makes me think sometimes we're like, but I hadn't called them in 5 years or 10 years or 15
Yes,
years. They don't remember who I am. Truthfully, they don't even care. And it's a call to thank them. So,
yes. Yeah, and I've noticed that is like I'm embarrassed calling them like, "Oh gosh, are they gonna remember me?" And even when they don't remember me, they're never like, "Don't call me again." Like
yeah,
they're usually like, "Oh yeah," and they'll eventually remember, "Oh yeah, you're right, I do remember." And they're always very nice. And so I'm
yeah,
like, "What
yeah.
have I been so weird about with this? Like it's
Mhm.
not a big deal. Just call them. It's not serious."
That's it. Hey, well, I have to tell you, I'm so proud of you and what you're doing. And there's no question you're going to break through the 100 million, which I know is a target for you. As we end the podcast, I want you just to encourage somebody who's listening today. And we have it from all spectrums. Some are doing a few, some are doing a lot, some are new, some are older. Like, what would you say to encourage somebody in today's market? What would you just give us some closing thoughts and maybe some
Yes,
encouragement?
I love this. So what I think is so important is your belief
Mm,
and faith.
mm,
So I would I would say honestly, the number one thing that you need to do first before you do anything. I mean, I have faith in God. I'm a Christian. Having that faith to me is everything because I know that God created me and that I have gifts and I have talents and he will not let me fail. And
mm,
so I know I stand firm in that. And when I have a bad day or if I'm like nervous before something, I always say, you know, Christ gives me strength. And I like look at myself and I talk to myself. And so what I would say to somebody that needs some encouragement, believe in yourself because if you or believe in God truly, but believe just believe because you have a gift, you are important and you have something to bring to the world. Do not let yourself talk yourself out of making your calls or doing your business because at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to make it or you're not going to make it. But
mm.
you're the one that's in charge of that. So, my encouragement basically would be once you stand firm and believe in yourself and believe that you can do it, that's when you're going to see a huge shift in your business.
I love it. Hey, well, thank you for being here and thank you for being a part. You know, just I love being a part of your journey and excited to see what we're going to continue to do together. Man, you are crushing it. Keep leading the way.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What a great episode. Hey, listen, I'd love to invite you to take a look inside the Alliance Bootcamp that Carl White and I are doing, what Brittany is a part of, and so many that you're hearing on the podcast. I love the results. I love the success. I love seeing that not only are we doing great deals and doing great business, but we're doing it with people we know, like, and trust. And it's a big deal to have consistency and accountability in a community of like-minded people moving in the same direction. And so I want to invite you, if you feel like you're isolated, you feel like you're alone, you feel like maybe you're stuck or feel like you could do more, and you haven't reached your full potential, I want to invite you, go to loanofficersuccess.com. Don't wait, don't delay, don't wait for the perfect moment or let this moment pass you by. Go to loanofficersuccess.com. Take action right now and go there. There's a couple of pieces of information you fill out. Once you do that, myself or a team member will call you. Let's see if the boot camp is right for you. Carl White and I are just seeing such great success, and I know that you can too. You are one action away from transforming your business, go to loanofficersuccess.com and we will see you on the inside. See you.